This episode is in partnership with Authority Magazine. Authority Magazine, a Medium publication, is devoted to sharing in-depth and interesting interviews featuring people who are authorities in business, pop culture, wellness, social impact, and tech.
Today we will meet someone who is so diverse in talent that it's virtually impossible to put her in just one box.
In fact, Jocelyn Wright, an actor, singer, producer, and costumer, says she is un-hyphenatable.
So let's drill down on how one person can have such a positive influence. Jocelyn, welcome to Bleeding People.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I actually really enjoyed your show.
Well, thank you for that. We appreciate it. We have one viewer, Kev. Jocelyn, you are considered, this may make you blush, but you're considered a Renaissance woman. What do people mean by that when best describing you?
Oh, well, it means that I never succeeded enough in any career to be tunnel vision. But no, the gift, I think, of multiple streams of income, which I think we may all understand. You master new skill sets, and I've allowed my curiosity and my desire to yield good work, excellent work. Journalist. I worked for a company that no longer really exists, Audio Digest Foundation, which was very high standard for continuing medical education. That I learned so much. And both my mother and sister got cancer, and I was able to not save them, but be the best palliative care giver because I'd also had an education that was in talking to the top thought leaders. Now, I would never have done that. If I came out of film school and sold the script that I'd written at 22 that was about the issue of abortion that is so prescient, it scares me when I've reread it, because I anticipated the right wing in a way that I don't even know how I did it. I thought I was going to be the female John Singleton. Like I was going to come out of USC Film School and I was going to lay it on the world about women's rights and abortion and, all these things. And it didn't happen. And that script didn't get made, and it got passed around and picked apart, and people took little pieces of it and stuck it in their stuff. And it was, sad. But at the same time, I became a costume designer because of that. I, did medical journalism. I've worked as a dramaturg with other actors because I came out to Hollywood thinking I would be a performer. And health issues, I had a lot of rash issues and all these weird reactions to makeup. And I got kicked out of, uncast from the first thing that I did because I literally burst into flames. It was like a Joan of Arc moment. They put the makeup on me, and this was early 80s, and it was heavier. And I had a massive allergic reaction, and it closed my eyes, and everybody was looking at me like, what's wrong with you? And my agent dropped me, and I thought, oh my God, I was still in film school. So I started writing. And the writing took me in a different direction, but I always had the performer in me. And as a costume designer, I interacted with my actors from the vantage point of, I know what it's like to have your ass out in the public, and I'm not going to let you bear the brunt or have anything negative. So I often stood for leading ladies in particular about things like, people being inappropriate. Can I be in the fitting? Is there a bra fitting? And you're thinking to yourself, producer, there's no bra scripted, bra. But if you're coming up to me and saying, can I see the actors in a bra? And you're just thinking, wow. So in a nutshell, what has made me a Renaissance woman is that I had to make my living in a world where the things that I thought would be a sure thing exploded in my hands in ways that I never fully understood and still don't. But I went forward earning a living and interacting with people, and that has been a gift. And that's the believe in people thing I think I love about your show so much it's the idea of your best self guiding you through circumstance, whatever it is.
Okay, so I kind of invented a new word about you, which maybe you invented before me, which is un-hyphenatable.
I know, that's good.
So that's
I was
a good
going to
one.
ask you, what does that mean, un-hyphenatable?
Well,
Yeah.
it's just, you've done so many things, and I think that sums you up perfectly. But I want to ask, because of the challenges or the hurdles that were put in front of you, be it being allergic to makeup, has this made you a better person? Has this led you down a good path?
Oh my God, you are so dear to even ask that. And, it's a conundrum because I think it is one way or the other. Especially, I suffer from a lot of chronic pain. I have psoriatic arthritis and psoriasis and eczema. It's like, oh, it's a nightmare. And, pain can make you grumpy and mean, or you can pick, and I've played a nun for in a long running stage show called the Late Night Catechism for years, which was created by Mary Pat Donovan, who I bow down to. She's from Second City. That's how I know her, Second City, Chicago. And it was a delight playing it. But one of the things I learned from the sister is if you offer it up, if I think to myself, if my suffering could alleviate someone else's suffering, even though that's a placebo effect interior monologue, it makes it easier to be in pain, to say, I have this, disfigurement and it's sad. But at the same time, I've created, and this is the idea of good out of evil. I have my own organic skincare, which does wonders for me, but it also does wonders for other people. I've helped people heal burns. I've helped people. A friend of mine had Parkinson's. He's sadly died. But part of the Parkinson's issue, whether it's a reaction to meds, is these heavy rashes. Well, that's what my issue is: cell growth and heavy rashes. It's a medical nightmare. And I was able to help him. And he was in less pain and less disfigurement, which again, we're looksist culture. So how we present is a real issue and a challenge. And as a woman, to be allergic to makeup, I literally had someone, a producer, not hire me as a writer on a commercial thing because she was like, I don't like the way you present yourself. You don't wear makeup. And I thought, well, that's a medical issue. And I have certain now found, with the help of really amazing makeup artists who took great measures to help me find certain makeups, but they're insanely expensive. I don't wear them on the daily, but if I'm going to be on film, I'll wear them. But I think it's prejudice, and now Pam Anderson has
I was
come
just going to
out.
say that. So, Jocelyn, once again, you're ahead of yourself because Pamela Anderson, all these women have come forward to take off their makeup, and that's it. They've sort of stood their ground and said, see, once again, a Renaissance woman, because I'm going to add to this, and we should have started off with what you don't do. But, but I also read that you made jewelry, hats, and distressed jeans for almost every rock star in the late 80s and early 90s. Okay.
Yes.
So how did that come about? I mean, I know there's a lot to talk about here, and there's going to be something that connects everything, but
Well, that's that thing, does it? It's like that eclectic thing. If you really throw it up in the air, I'm a well-organized schizophrenic and I don't want to be there when I fall apart. So, but my sister was a costume designer, and it was a real circle. Anne Roth was my godmother growing up. So I grew up sets and not official, but like emotional. And her daughter and I were friends from childhood, and we had a band of chosen family. And Hillary, my sister, evolved into costume designing. We both had, interests in it. And she did the Terminator. So I was a freshman at SC when she was designing the Terminator. And she was like, oh my God, the distressing for the future things. And I was like, I love this stuff because I used to learn to dye things at Brooks Van Horn as a kid. And I would watch how the ladies do the dyeing. And I thought it was so cool. So I'm like, I'll distress, I'll dye everything, which I actually turned into a business and helped put me through film school, which was very expensive. And I ended up distressing all these clothes for different movies. And back in the 80s, before cameras and film and lighting were as good as they are now, you had to tech. It was called teching clothing, just because the white sheen of a white t-shirt, and for a while, everything was like this sepia. It looked like, the Dust Bowl, like everyone had come out of the Depression and no whites had any glimmer. And I created a blue gray white that, I had DPs all the time say, that's real white. You haven't teched that. And they'd put the white card up against it and you could see that it was actually not real white. And so I did that for a bunch of different movies. And I was also distressing jeans And then it became that it was called for. I had all these stylists. I worked with Ariane Phillips and a couple of other people, and they were like, oh, we need distressed jeans. And I could chunk the blue out. I would use cheese graters. I had this whole technique and chunk the blue out and leave that little white thread thing. And that was very coveted by the rockers because that look of like letting it kind of see through your clothes, that cheese grating. And I ended up doing it for Axl Rose and a bunch of other people. And, it was fun and crazy. And a lot of them wanted a wear mark in their crotch that reflected a large manhood, codpiece of the rock star signature.
So I'm sure you've seen the film Spinal Tap, but
yes.
Have you?
Oh my God. That was I had laughed at that movie, but I'd also had that experience. And years ago, when I was really young and green, I was at Western Costume, and this wonderful, wonderful costumer who is ancient, this guy named Hamlet, he told me, you will be presented with men who, get aroused when you're fitting them. And you must look up in their eyes and never stare down, and then say, thank you for letting me know which side you dress to. Because, that's a formal tailoring thing, and you turn it into a job thing. And that carried me through so many embarrassing, my job was, hello, take off your pants. I mean, that's really what it is with wardrobe.
Well,
I you're discussing their bodies on the phone.
I would like to protest. You're the lady that doesn't let anyone see the Hollywood starlet in a bra, and there you are on your hands and knees in front of a rock star.
I hear you.
The inequity, it's an endless imbalance, but there's no way to actually get a hem right without getting on your knees. So, and men are men, and, hours are long on the set, and say stuff, and you're like, okay, you better be able to come back like Mae West. I mean, especially when you're dealing with certain actors, it's like, you've got to be ready to be like, boom, boom. And, I got very good at the comeback as a young girl because you want to be ready.
So, Jocelyn, I want to ask you, so you're a storyteller. I mean, really, the theme maybe is sort of storytelling-ish. Yeah. And so how do you tell your story? Like, what mediums do you use, and what are we missing? Performing, costumer, talk about your writing. Is that share a little bit more about that.
And singing.
Oh my gosh, singing.
Well, I love to sing. I love to dance. I write my own music. I have a Christmas film that I'm trying to sell. It's so crazy because I thought it was going to be a slam dunk. It has a song attached. It's a really good song. And I got all this interest, but it's not happening yet. And that's all my babies are in a coma is basically where I'm at creatively, in the way that, other than my children's book, which I did release self-publishing because I wanted it in the world. And it was illustrated by the amazing Neely, and I met Neely on The Closer, as dramaturgy, for basically doing research and rehearsal. And I did that on The Closer with Kira Sedgwick for 7 seasons, which was a very satisfying and enjoyable process. And I've done that for other actresses as well. I worked with Zoe Saldana on From Scratch, and I just worked with Mary McDonnell on House of Usher. And we had such, I don't know if you remember any of the hubbubbery around House of Usher, but Frank Langella was let go. And we had to redo it with a different actor. It was one of the most interesting processes I've ever been involved with, to see how performance is altered by the other actor, and how Mary, who's a genius, Mary McDonnell, is a genius of an actress. And she internalized this character so beautifully with Frank and did it. And then they had to redo it. And it was a very different experience with the other actor, and wonderful. And he's wonderful, but she had to temper her character. And the process was much changed because we were directing it towards a different actor. And that was a revelation. So I've had the privilege of of working. Tim Matheson, I also I've dramaturged for a lot of people. And part of that came out of working on a film with Helen Mirren, a film called Losing Chase, for which she won her first Golden Globe. And the character had an erratic emotional sensibility. She was a manic depressive. And I dyed clothes to match the house and the furniture so that when she was feeling hidden, she fit into the furniture and it looked like she disappeared. And I did this huge book for her about the character's motivations. And I'd shown it to Ellen in our fitting. And she was like, oh, she was very funny. She said to me, my favorite thing an actor's ever said, she said, you're very familiar with the script and not in a way that's annoyed me yet. And I was just like, oh, I'm on alert. I won't annoy her. But I showed her this book and it had the whole emotional thing. And it's so crazy. I thought, okay, Dame Mirren, she wasn't quite as lofty yet, but her truth was that's who she was. And she was right, boundaries. But she then came to the trailer every morning and would sit at the ironing board and look at that book, and she would look at that book. And I think it was a touchstone for her, how the clothes had this, because again, think about your own day. We go to our closet, we pick what we're going to wear. It's how we feel. It's who we are economically. It's a demographic thing. It's all these things. So your identity, in a way, a costume designer is a very intimate relationship with the performer and the character. And so in that way, again, it's a real privilege. It's a privilege to tell stories, to intimately interface with people in a way that says, like, this is what makes it important. I sometimes will give, when I design a piece of jewelry, and again, it's really something I've made, so it's in multiples and it's not expensive, but I'll put one of them in a beautiful box with a note like, this is from your father, this is from your boyfriend, with a history, and leave it in the trailer. And that way the actor can decide, do I like that history as something? And, what I always say to the actor is, I'll give you this idea, I'll posit this idea about the script, but connect this scene to this thing that happened in the past. And why is she saying this? Or why is he thinking this? And they can take it. And if it helps, it's wonderful. If it's not, it's garbage. I have no investment in my ego about it. It's about helping their excellence come to the fore. And, that is a very privileged. And I think that's what you and Kevin are doing here too, is that thing where you allow space for other people's wondrousness to step into the thing, and you facilitated it. And that is a fantastic thing to do. And, our culture is so fixated on the splashiest, they have this billions of dollars. And we have a real cult of personality that's around a lot of grotesquerie. And we need, I think, communally more of what you guys are putting out there, which is that thing that we bring out the best in each other. And by believing in each other or seeing the capacity of another person and helping, you actually fulfill your own reason for being in a way that's very satisfying and worthy. And it may not get the top billing, but it is.
What do you mean?
So essential.
Well, at least it's I would agree with you in a way in that at least it's honest, and I mean, what else is there? Yes. I wanted to ask you, you're talking about the films and the costuming, and you mentioned Kira Sedgwick, who personally thanked you when she won her award. She personally thanked you, but this whole costuming thing, it's really in my craw right now, because I've just started. I mean, there are so many films where the costuming not only assists in telling the story, a lot of times it actually tells a story. And I'm thinking of way back, like Barry Lyndon or one of these kinds of things where so it's not just somebody that's making a dress. You're like in, the script, Dame Helen Mirren, because you are also telling the story.
That's right. 100%. And you have to go vertical. I also did commercials in the 90s, and we would have these meetings on demographics. I worked with McDonald's, and they'd be like honing in on this is the white family. It was a little bit scary. Some of those demographic meetings, you're like, ah. But they were like, how many meals a month is eaten by this affluent, white family versus the black family, and they marketed that way, and they did their research. And I have to say that costume designers do that same thing. They go vertical, like the script goes horizontal, and all the actors and every department head kind of has to go vertical, and they go deep into it. And I learned to be a better writer breaking down scripts. One of the things that was the gift of the work that I did coming out of film school, I think they had one writing class at USC, and it was not great. It's very hard to teach someone to be a writer. I believe that the formatting of scripts is one of the most challenging in the world. It's a lot like poetry, and I write a lot of poetry, so I feel an affinity for it, but it's about timing and pacing and importance and the weight of a line. Like you give it the visually, this is time, this is fast. A lot of that's pacing, like poetry. And when I learned to break a script down to costume design, to go the logic of like, what has she really got in that suitcase? How many outfits could she have? Because it drives you nuts when you see these things where, the person ran out with a backpack and suddenly they're in 50 different outfits. So the reality meant a lot. And then I applied that to screenwriting, and it's been very helpful. But you're absolutely right, that micro world that becomes macro important. And Barry Lyndon is a beautiful example of it. But so many films, certainly sensually, visually, that aspect of sweeping beauty that is costume design. But it's that anchored in reality story. What is, how wealthy is this person? Where are they coming from socially? All of those things are stratified. Weather, there's nothing worse than when you have like discordant outfits with the weather and people aren't dressed all for the same season. You'll look at a film sometimes and be like, that guy looks like he's in spring and that woman's, and you're just thinking to yourself, what was the designer thinking? She wasn't really telling, or he wasn't really, they were not telling the story. And again, you almost safeguard the director sometimes from themselves. Like you'll be, especially writer directors, you're like, well, remember in the script, you do this. When you're in the process of production, sometimes they'll lose sight of it. And we film out of sequence. It's very chaotic, but you've broken the script down in a very organized way. So you and the script supervisor, they're amazing. Script supervisors are very amazing, important parts of film. And if a film is well assembled and looks smooth and seamless, it is in no small part because they have had a fantastic script supervisor. So like casting directors or, costumers or script supervisors, some people don't get the focus, but they're so important to the process.
Do you like British costume drama? Do you like Downton Abbey, or do you find that stuff over the top?
No, I love things like that, but I'm eclectic. I don't want, everything doesn't have to be fussy. I also like things that are really like sort of ratty and down dirty if they're done with great continuity. And so yes, every costume drama. And Barry Lyndon, oh my God, I want to step into that film.
So you know what? I love your curiosity and your passion for whatever it is that you're doing at any given time. You are a storyteller. There's no question. You're a storyteller, and it comes out in all of the things that you're doing: writing, performing, costuming, singing, poetry. And I will make sure that the three books that you've done, if you could just hold them up. But while we're holding them up, and we're going to ask you one last question. Okay, it's called Shammy
and Winston, and it's actually based on pets I really had. I had a rescue cat and a rescue dog, and the dog didn't like cats, and then this one cat sort of forced himself upon her. So it's a love story between a cat and a dog, but the dog is a bigot against cats, but eventually learns that bigotry is foolish and that love is more important. And then once they get to the loving, they can have all the adventures.
That's lovely. And so that segues beautifully into each week we ask our guests one question. And the question is, why do you, and a lot of people, why do you believe in people?
Wow, that is a big one. I believe in people because we are one, whether we like it or not. Believing in others is believing in yourself. Knowing that others are worthy of a second chance is knowing that you're worthy. We are so quantumly entangled. I don't know any other phrase to really get at about it, that if we don't believe in each other, we are not believing in ourselves. And it is an essential part of moving forward through the world to believe in others and to believe in yourself.
Thank you so much for sharing your unhyphenatable life story.
That's a great word. That's going to go in the dictionary.
Really is. I want that in the dictionary. It's like Thomas Hardy. You're making up your own words and they're perfect. Oh, I shouldn't have made a circle thing. That's a horrible right-wing thing now. You can't do that. Anyway, I love the word unhyphenable. And thank you so much for having me on your wonderful show. And
thank you, Jocelyn.
Just very delightful.
Thank you so much. Have the best day.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks. Kev, I think the one thing that's inspiring about Jocelyn is that she is resilient. The fact that she multitask, she can hop into a situation given whatever decade she's doing jewelry or writing or design or costuming or writing. It's just she's, what'd you say?
Unhyphenatable.
Unhyphenatable. All right, everyone. This is our new word for the week. Unhyphenatable.
And each time that she had a hiccup or got knocked down, she got up and kept on going. And we're not going to get knocked down either. So if you want to meet someone else like this next week, subscribe to Believe in People, and we'll see you then.
Thanks, everyone. Oops.